Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday morning on a night of lake. I got my buddy Don Birdie in the back of the boat. We were out today. It's blowing like a son of a gun out here. See it? It is just, we got a perfect drift. It's blowing. I'm lying. I'm a fisherman and I'm telling you a story because it's been glass all morning. All morning. So, Don and I came out this morning and we're like, well, He goes, what's your plan? I said, I don't have a plan. I have no plan. I have been struggling, and I said, what do you want to do? He goes, well, I had a tip about a spot fishing shallow weeds. I said, all right, great. It's as good a plan as any. So we came over. We're on the North Shore, and we're in anywhere from 8 to 12 foot of water these weeds are in, and they're beautiful. They are, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Probably not. It's sparse. It's not super, super thick, but they're all beautiful green weeds. There's no slime on them. There's no eelgrass mixed in with them. And we started fishing it. We left the house at 5. 5:30 we got out here. We started right away. We've only been shallow all day. We didn't do anything else. We've thrown jerk baits, hammer rigs, a few other jigs, and a bucktail. So I was reading an article last night in Fisherman about ripping really as light a bucktail as you can get down in there in these weed stalks and ripping them through the weeds. And this morning I caught 2 walleyes doing it. Don's got one on a hammer harness, and that's been it. A few miscellaneous perch along the way. And we had all 3 of those bites within about a 50-foot radius. And we've went back over that spot now for an hour. And we had those 3 bites. I had that first jig bite. I had that first jig bite. We went back, made another drift. What little drift we had, we were moving super slow through the weeds. I got another one. We went and made another drift. Don got one, and then that's been it. So we had a little bit of a flurry in 3 drifts. Now, mine came on that right there, which is just a black and white bucktail. Simple. That's a 1/4 ounce. We're only in 10 foot of water. I'm not throwing it far. I'm pitching it out, almost like you're flipping for largemouth. You're flipping it out there 20, 30 feet, let it hit the bottom, and you're just ripping it back through those weeds. Now, I just got a phone call from my buddy Ian. And you guys know Ian. He's fished with me a bunch of times. Ian's an excellent fisherman. And he's got live scope on the boat. And he's got a couple. But he goes, I'm watching them on live scope, and he goes, half of them aren't even reacting. They're not even looking at it. Now, for us, as soon as we got on the outside edge of this weed line, and it's pretty defined, and it was right about 11 and a half, 12 feet, and then this shelf it was a slope, but it wasn't real steep, and it went from 11 and a half to about 15, and it was wide open. Boy, the fish TV told me it was loaded with fish, and Don and I keep looking at it, and you're like, man, they're all over. And then when we got on the outside edge, we did some different stuff. We threw jigging wraps. We threw blade baits. I kept throwing the bucktail. Threw a swim bait. They didn't want to know nothing from nothing. And as soon as we hung up with Ian, Don said, well, I feel a little better. Because he's struggling too. And so it's bright, clear sky the day after a storm front. I don't know. There's 1,000 things that could be wrong with these things. I'm going to tell you one thing, and this you can take to the bank. Every single place we've stopped has been loaded with little perch. anywhere from yay big to say that big. And I mean loaded. I mean, they were following the jerkbait in. I'd get the jerkbait right here to the boat, and I'd go to lift it out of the water, and there'd be 50, 100 of them this size following it, coming right up to the surface. So there's no shortage of food in this lake or in these weed beds. Obviously, the predators are in here too. I've been a little shocked that we haven't had a single non-walleye. You know, we haven't had a smallmouth, a largemouth especially in here, a pickerel in these weeds, nothing. And maybe today, listen, we're fishing sparse weeds. There are places we could have went that they were thick right to the surface, and you'd have had everything you could do to get through them. I tend to think that this is a nicer weed to fish. I don't know. I don't know if that changes by day. I don't know if that's listen, if it was more overcast or a little chop to it, they would be in the sparse weeds, and maybe when it's flat and still and sunny, they go into those really heavy weed to get cover. All of those theories are completely plausible, and I have no way of telling you whether either one is 100% true or not. But no matter whether you struggle, and some days struggling, I think most days struggling, when you can get past the frustration of struggling, it teaches you so much more than days where they're on. Because days where they're on, I don't think it matters what you throw at them. If these fish are that fired up, it doesn't matter. On the days where they're not, or the days where you don't get them like you think you should have, or any number, boy, I think that really hammers home. Even if it's only, well, this was the situation, this is what I had, and this didn't work. Now, maybe you think some days fish are uncatchable. That's very possible. I tend to think, though, that every fish is catchable given the right circumstance or the right presentation. You know, I didn't go super finesse on anything. I suppose we could have got on the outside of this edge and cracked the tube, or, fished a Ned rig. Could have fished a drop shot with any number of baits on it in these weeds and pitched it like this and just bump, and then picked it up and flipped it like that. Any number of things you could have done. Listen, what we did, I caught 2 walleyes today. That's more than I've caught all week. So I'm good with that. I'm not good with it, but I'm pleased. And I did it doing something that I don't normally do. Okay, great. It's something to build on. And it's something that I've never done. So it has my interest. Water temp out here in the main lake, it cooled off a little bit after all that rain yesterday. It's down to 73. No wind whatsoever. So I can't really tell you. We have a little bit of a breeze now, but it's too little too late. Time to get to Home Depot and get materials and get to work. So tomorrow's Wednesday, hump day. I'll be out here tomorrow morning somewhere doing something. And I will see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this daily content, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing, but for me, it's invaluable. And it shows the support to keep going and to keep producing this content every day. So if you're watching, I appreciate it more than you know. And as always, keep your tip up. Keep your tip up, baby.